ho, ho, ho. Why does everyone in chat have the golden wheel? It's not as special that way. Reminder that Destiny listens to AJR. Never take his music opinion seriously. Who's AJR? Actual Justice Warrior, Actual Justice Reed. You got a SIBO vacuum, right? I did. I got the X4 automatic or 4X automatic. What's going on for December 1st? Literally nothing is going on for December 1st. You guys assumed that. I told you a million times. I'm just saying by December 1st, hopefully I have all my business shit in the background done and reorganized, which I do. You can check out the Path of Exile 2 trailer. Yeah, you know what? That actually sounds like something I will do, is Path of Exile 2. Because what else would I sink 100 hours into? What did you do? Just a bunch of really boring business. Listen, if we ever do like a business seminar, a small business seminar, we'll talk our way through it. Just a bunch of boring, how you like organize employees. The real question is the studio done now? It should be. I haven't changed anything another in a while. I was just finding the SSD thing, and these drives work. So I think the only thing that I'm looking to change now. Wow, Mike Klum, thanks for the 10 gifted subs. I think the only things that I probably want to look at now are like just aesthetic things, like what could look better in the background. Like I don't know what would yeah, I'm not sure. Will Dan ever get his perms back or his Destiny holding strong? So one of the things I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make sure that every different community thing I have should have its own moderation and its own like reporting structure. So there's not like one guy who has mod over like 4 different communities, because I think that stuff like that was leading to issues. So have you gone doomer on U.S. electoral politics now? Because it's hard for me to pay attention to it lately. It's pretty wild, but like wild in a bad way too. The new SSD cooling things work. It's not a different cooling; it's just a different type of drive, basically. Yeah. I don't know what was meaningfully different about it, but I'm using this T9 Samsung drive. Maybe since it's like a whole built thing, maybe just the cooling on the internal drive is just better connected to the enclosure or something. I don't know, maybe. J6 dock this month, hopefully. That my dude is hammering away at it in the background. Do you allow head mods to appoint lower mods, or do you approve all mods? I should have a head moderator across every platform, and if they want other people to be mod, then they can appoint them as a lower mod. It's essentially a PCI Express 3.0 M2 drive. Not as fast as the 4.0 ones, means less heat, and the enclosure has a larger surface area for cooling. Yeah, but it shouldn't matter if it's 3.0, 4.0. Like, the speed is going to be the same either way, right? It's not like I'm writing slower to this drive. What's so special about the SIBO vacuum? I don't know. It's just supposed to, it's just like one of those like buy it for life brands, I think. Do you think that learning civics or reading the Federalist Papers has changed some of your ideas about how to structure your own bureaucracy within your company or in your moderation teams? As cringe as it sounds, a little bit. Yeah, part of it was like would you call it, actually I think in software development, I think you call it like, you can have a federated system where you have different, like I think Mastodon, I think is a federated architecture where you can have like, I was going to say single sign-on, but that's not even right. And I think that refers to something specific in software that I'm not even referring to. But like you have like different countries of like servers that have like accounts and stuff, and there's like a name for this. I think it's called a federated system, I think. Yeah. But I like the idea of having like a, I'm trying not to use like country words, but like you have your states with your internal governments, your internal moderation teams, then you have like your federal, your top level thing that kind of like coordinates between all of them. There's nothing really unique about the US there. You're kind of just describing every management structure ever, but it does give me more appreciation for like how our own government is structured and how it's run, basically. You're going to start researching on the list of things to research soon? Kind of. I mean, I am, as we read these Federalist Papers, right? Like, that's one of the things that, I don't know if I have it on here or not, but. So I take it he's not going to discuss Syria? I mean, we read an article on it yesterday. I don't know what is, what is there to discuss? It's breaking news. I hate breaking news. Why do you always get surprised when you come here and it's like there's a breaking news event? What do you want? What am I supposed to say? Syrian rebels advance after wresting control of most of Aleppo. They fought, they killed, they're in Aleppo. Who knows where they'll be tomorrow? In what ways is the U.S. that much different than other federations these days? I don't actually know. But back when they started, the United States was like the first large republic of its kind to be broken up the way that it was. But these days, I think a lot of European countries probably kind of tended towards that structure. Even the European Union is arguably that structure because Americans we basically invented government. That's what I'm trying to say, okay? Is it good or bad? Please, I don't know what to think. Do we like the rebels? I have no opinions of my own. Okay, here, back up, macro, okay? Huge macro perspective. When you're trying to think of whether or not a particular thing in another country is good or bad, okay, there is no universal frame of reference, right? There is no like, oh, is this like, well, I guess if you believe in some kind of objective, absolute ethical system, then maybe there is. But generally, there's no absolute moral frame of reference to evaluate things. So people tend to default to one of two without realizing it, right? The first one that I think most people default to is it good for most of the people living there? So like if there's a war, a revolution, or whatever, people think like, oh, is it good for the people living there? And then the second frame of reference that some people default to, and then the U.S. government defaults to is this good for us, and us being the United States? Do you plan to read the Anti-Federalist Papers too? Yeah, I probably will. So when you look at the situation going on in Syria, so looking at it from the second frame of reference, we don't like Assad, okay? We don't like Assad because Assad is part of the Iranian axis that stands in opposition to the U.S.-backed Saudi-Israeli axis. So that's number one. So we don't like Assad. So anything that is like toppling or getting rid of Assad, we probably like, okay? Number one. Number two, now obviously the next question is, well, what comes after Assad? Would it be somebody that that would be more favorable to us or at least less favorable to the Iranian axis? I don't know as far as these rebels go. I don't know how. My guess, because Assad is utilizing so much from Russia, China, every time you see IRGC, that's the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, which is like the CIA, I believe, of the Iranian army. So that's Iran. So the IRGC or Hezbollah, which is Iran, all of these like Iranian-backed things are the things fighting against the rebels. So my guess would be if the rebels won, it would probably be somebody that would be less favorable to Iran and more favorable to the U.S. or Israel or Saudi Arabia, but maybe not. Or maybe it would be more hostile towards Iran, but also more hostile towards Israel, because that's kind of like a weird relationship as well, because the U.S. likes Saudi Arabia, the U.S. likes Israel. Saudi Arabia and Israel, the leadership it likes Israel, because most Arab leaders are like done. They're like, fuck, do the Israel shit? Come on, we're over it. The people don't necessarily feel the same way, but yeah. So from a geostrategic United States perspective, the I is Islamic, not Iran. Oh, I'm sorry. It's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, not Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. My bad. I'm sorry. I'm not like my bad, like fuck you. That's a good correction. It's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. So I would say that, like, roughly speaking, is it good or bad? For the United States, you'd probably say it's good, okay? From a geostrategic U.S. perspective. Now, from the people on the ground, I don't know enough to say. I don't know if the people of Syria would live happier, healthier lives under the FSA or the HTS, whatever this rebel group is, versus Assad. I will say this very cautiously, but my understanding is that under Assad, even if he was kind of like a brutal dictator dude, for the most part, life in Syria was like decent. It's my understanding. I could be wrong on that, but like I think there was like a Christian population, and for the most part, like people did decently, I believe, under Assad. So there's a chance that even though geostrategically it's supportive of U.S. interests in the region and in the world, it might be worse for the people there if the Syrian rebels take over. So But who knows? I'm sorry. There are people that know. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Didn't you buy a new car? No, I didn't. Not yet. As an American, why should I care if it benefits the people there? Why shouldn't I base everything off of whether or not it benefits America? Because having people view your country favorably is really important when it comes time to do things in the future. So, for instance, even though it's we gloss over this, we don't gloss over it. We don't even cover it. Or maybe we do. When I went to school, I didn't even know South America existed, okay? You have North America, you've got Europe, parts of Asia, maybe North Africa, maybe. And that's all of our history. That's it. South America is not even mentioned, okay? From when I did history. Well, unless you consider, is Cuba? It's not considered part of South America, right? For the Cuban Missile Crisis. But for a lot of South American countries, a lot of their history over the last century, they have defining moments in their history that are defined by U.S. intervention in a bad way. Now, I don't know modern day what the average Venezuelan, Bolivian, Chilean, Hondurasian, I don't know if that's a real thing, or Honduran. I don't know what these people think in general of the U.S., but I know that views towards us have been pretty disfavorable in the past because the United States is basically seen as, I think on the front side of like the 19th century, kind of coolish, where it's like, oh, cool, the U.S. told Europe to fuck off and they're not going to fuck with South America. That's actually really cool. And America's not even colonizing us. Like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then in like the 20th century, it's like, yeah, we're not going to colonize you and we're not going to let Europe take you over. But if you've got a leader and he's a little bit more commie than Cappy, you better believe we're going to fuck him up, even if it's really bad for the people, which is where support in a roundabout way for people like, oh, fuck, I forgot his name. Pinochet, or in a more direct way, I believe, for people like Batista. These are just leaders that were bad. These are leaders who are just bad for the people, but they're more loyal to the U.S. interests than Soviet interests, so we would support them. So even if it's geostrategically beneficial in the short term, it's going to foster a lot of hatred and resentment from the people in the long term. And if people don't like you or love you, you have no authority around the world to operate because nobody's going to look at you like you're not going to be able to do shit. And then in the future, when you need to do shit and you want to rally the troops or rally people to support you, they're not going to want to. They're going to say, like, fuck you, the U.S., you guys are fucking horrible and evil. Fuck that. We're not going to do anything with you guys. So, yeah. I feel like you're in an egoism spiral. We can either do what is best for us or do what is best for others. Why would I do what's best for others? Because doing what's best for others, yeah, it is an egoism spiral, but I think that's good. I'm an egoist. I think I have been for like the better part of the last 2 decades. Yeah. So all that to say basically that like when you do things around the world that help other countries, those people look more favorably upon you. They're more likely to form beneficial trade deals with you, military alliances with you, and cooperate with you in other ways. That these are like in some ways that are tangibly beneficial. So that's good. I could be wrong, but I assume his question is asking, what is wrong with fucking over other nations if America doesn't suffer long-term consequences? I mean, it's like asking, like, is drinking water to quench your thirst good if drinking water doesn't actually quench your thirst? I mean, I guess it would be bad then, but I mean, like, what? It's a meaningless question. Like, fucking over other countries, we live in a connected world now. It's always going to be bad. Having destabilized countries or unstable countries, it fosters extremist movements. It causes economic perils in that area. It causes economic perils in other areas. So, for instance, let's say we asked the same question back in 2011 to 2013, and we're like, Syria collapsing? Lol. Who the fuck cares? Well, when all those refugees, all like 5 million plus or whatever, 10 million, how many was the Syrian refugee crisis? All fled northwest through Europe. Well, what happened? You started to get more right-wing governments across the entire continent of Europe. Arguably, things like Brexit can be traced back to, if not further back in time, can be traced back to like the Syrian refugee crisis. So when you ask like, oh, Syria, I don't even know what the fuck Syria is, right? What are they going to do, right? Well, they can turn all of Europe right-wing. You fuck it up. So it's important. We all affect each other. We all live on the same planet and share the same news, radio waves, and everything else. So we kind of have to operate that way. Yeah. American intervention in LATAM has been to uphold democracy. Haiti, Panama, sorry. or is it Panama or Panama? I don't know how they pronounce it. Panama? Grenada invasions. America did not install Pinochet and actively reported his human rights abuses too, and had nothing to do with his coup against Allende. I don't think we installed Pinochet. I think that's true, but I think that we looked favorably upon it. I think we were like supportive of it morally. I don't know if we provided assistance after he took over immediately, but Assad is not good for Syria in any way. Nearly nobody likes him. The only reason Assad is in power is because of fear. Assad uses the Sunni majority as a boogeyman against the minorities and poses as their protector. Okay, that might be true. I truly don't know about the living conditions in Syria. So I really truly, I don't mean this in like a tongue-in-cheek, like I just don't know. I don't know the answer. It could be that Assad is a horrible fucking leader and living under him fucking sucks ass. So. Would you agree that what's good for the U.S. will ultimately be good for the people, though, regardless of short-term harm, like installing democracy/liberal leaders in the region? Open to trade agreements will ultimately benefit the people there in the longer term, irrespective of the amount of immediate suffering we have to cause to do it. I think for a while we had this naive assumption that everybody like wants a liberal democracy the same way that we do. There's probably, I'm sure there are other historians that have written in so much more depth than this than I could ever do this topic justice, because I don't know anywhere near enough to have a good comprehensive view of this. But like countries have to develop a little bit at their own pace. I don't think that you can just like say, here, have a democracy and you guys will love it. I don't know if everybody necessarily views it the same way. Oh, fuck, no, this came up for Israel, Palestine. Fuck, who did I read that was making this argument? I don't remember who. I don't remember. I read so many books. It's hard to keep track of all. The argument, basically, the remark was something like, it was a mistake for the West to look at the Middle East and think you can either have democracy or you can have Islamic dictatorship, and we never considered the middle ground of secular dictatorship. Now, I've also read counter arguments to this that. And I've had people email me and shout at me too that like, well, there is no such thing as a secular dictatorship in the Middle East. That when Sadat, was a secular dictator, they still had to go to the imams, for religious right to conduct war, or they still had to go to, they had to say prayers. Was it Nasser or was it Sadat who when he was doing his makeup, I think it was Sadat, when he was doing his makeup for his speech in front of the Knesset in Jerusalem, he has a little mark on his forehead, and he didn't want the makeup people to get rid of it because supposedly, I don't know if this is common in Islam or if other people do this, but it shows that like I put my head down on the ground 5 times a day to pray, and I need that mark to be visible so people know that I'm like holy and I'm doing this. So, yeah. So maybe secular dictatorships aren't as secular as they're supposed to be. Maybe, maybe not. But that middle stage of like a more secular dictatorship versus just an actual like Islamist government is probably a better middle ground. And then you kind of like build your way towards democracy. Something that I spoke about before is we always assume that the next stage of civilization is like better, is just better. But oftentimes you have these weird grounds where like if you were to chart like the improvement of civilization, you have like your peak era of one stage, and in order to move to the next, things are usually like a little bit worse before you hit your next peak, and then they kind of have to get a little bit worse before you like hit your next peak, basically. There's like, and people don't see these like valleys. They just see it's better going from one to the next. The example of this in the Middle East was, would you rather be like a nomadic, like a would it be hunter-gatherer? I don't know. Would you rather be like a nomadic person that has camels and, conducts, merchant business, right? Because these people, if you're thinking about like the nomadic people with herds of animals, these people, they know how to fight. They're not constrained by any government. They can move and adapt in accordance with the weather, with market conditions, with geopolitical conditions. These people have the most freedom of any group of people ever, right? Or would you rather be a city dweller? Well, when we think about city dwellers, we think of like, oh, you have like a government running water, all these awesome things. But that's not true. The first cities, right? The first cities that popped up were basically, if you've got two groups of people, right? You've got your nomads and then you've got your agri-cuck people, right? Your agriculture cuck people. Now these people, imagine you go into an area and you got some friends, okay? And you got the boys with you and you're like, okay, time to go fuck some people up. Well, on one end, we've got these nomads who can go anywhere. Okay, they can run away. They can go call their friends. They've got guns. They know how to hunt. They know how to fight. Fuck. Okay, and then you've got agriculture cucks. Well, these guys are stuck to one area for months at a time, right? Because they need to stay there with their crops or they'll die. They oftentimes have to gather around like rivers, these like geostrategic points. They have to. Usually they're not hunting that much, so they don't have as many guns. They don't know how to fight as well. Like, okay, well that's awesome. So we're just going to go and offer protection to them, but it's really just an extortion racket, right? So for your very early cities are just mob bosses that are just basically taking advantage of people that are doing agriculture. They basically sit there and they're like, oh, hey, I see you guys are doing agriculture. Sure would be a shame if your whole field's burnt down, right? And they're like, well, fuck me, I guess so. And they're like, cool, well, why don't you just give us like 50% of your income and maybe we'll keep you safe from the nomads. And it's like, well, what are you going to do? Are you going to say no? Because you can't run because now your crops are fucked, right? So these early cities were horrible. So when people are like, oh, why doesn't everybody here just become a city dweller? Well, because the early cities were basically slavery. It sucks. What's your historical example? The whole development of the Middle East, I believe, was like this historically, that a lot of the early cities were just these big like roving bands of like mob bosses, families that would just sit and just like basically own everybody and you'd just be fucked. And the nomadic people had so much more freedom because the further away you were from the city, the less of their government or city rules have impacted you. You could move in, you could raid, you could, raise your animals, you'd sell the males, you'd keep the females to breed more and all this. You just had a much better, Everything I'm saying here just comes from that one book for the Middle East, though. So this might not have necessarily been the same for feudal Europe or for other parts of the world. Maybe I'm pulling this from that Middle East book. It might be that like the geography of the Middle East with the scarce water and everything maybe made this play out a lot differently. So, which time period was this? I think it's talking about like the thousands. Like up to the 1900s, maybe? But I mean, it covers some modern, or I don't know. Well, let's look, I guess, actually. I guess I just assume that it covers like the centuries before and then leading right up to like World War I, basically. And then it goes over some modern stuff, but I'm not actually sure what years what I'm talking about would apply to, but that's why we build castles, so we don't have to meet the Dothraki in an open field. In an open field, Ned. Do you think the geography of South America determines their poverty the most? The richest countries per capita are the smallest and are not impeded by mountain ranges and rainforests. I have no idea. I truly don't know. And I'm very scared to generalize from that because I've heard so many different things that people say. Like that Guns, Germs, and Steel guy. Is it Neil Diamond or is that a singer? He makes a lot of arguments relating to geography and stuff. And apparently like the whole world of specialists have come out and have said that everything that he claims about geography being deterministic of how societies develop is completely and totally wrong. Oh, Jared Diamond. So I don't know, maybe, I don't know how much that impacts things or not. I've also heard of this concept of, is it called the paradox of resources, where countries that are resource rich tend to be more impoverished, but that's because of like colonialism and people moving in and basically just like sitting there and extracting resources from your population. Is it the resource curse or something? So maybe, but I mean, if you're a more developed country, right? The United States is not cursed with resources, right? Norway hasn't been cursed with resources. So yeah, I don't know. Destiny, this is not 100% correct. If we're talking, for example, floodplains, cities provide a massive advantage in providing organized labor to divert flood waters and build canals to water crops, hence the early rise of civilizations in floodplains in China and the Middle East. I don't know how many floodplains there are in the Middle East, number one, and number two, if you were nomadic, you wouldn't care if a place was flooding, you would just pick up and move, no? Why should the U.S. government listen to anyone who's talking about anything other than what's best for the U.S.? Because oftentimes what's best for the United States is going to be, or what's best for other countries, if you're in charge of that, is going to be what's best for the United States. Do I really have to, I don't understand if this is this really not immediately like self-evident? Like, does that require further expansion? I feel like it should be really obvious. If you're seen as a country that goes around the world and does good things and people are generally supportive of you, like, it helps your foreign relations and it helps everything you do so much. This year's Economic Nobel Prize was about it. They proved that institutions were very important to developing prosperity in South America. I've heard that like institutions are like some of the most important things when it comes to protecting freedoms, guaranteeing rights, and then leading to like economic development and stuff. I remember there was an NBER paper we read, and this is before Vivan. So if I say there's a paper that I've read before 2024, what I probably mean is I read the abstract and the conclusion. Okay. But I think there was an NBER paper that had to do with, a lot of people think that, oh, capitalists love exploiting fucked countries. Capitalists love slave labor in destitute countries. And I don't think that's actually true. Or at least that paper made the argument that corporations actually firms prefer to invest in places, even if the labor cost is higher, if there's more stability. Because in the long term, unstable places have no guarantee of like return on capital investment. Like let's say I can build a factory in one place and I have to pay the laborers $10 an hour, but in a more fucked, destabilized country, I can pay them $5 an hour. Well, I might think I'm cute to go build the factory in the $5 an hour place, and for like a year or two, I'm making good profits. But one, if the regime topples, the factories are unsupported, now my investment is gone. Two, regime topples, somebody comes in, they expropriate, meaning the government takes all of my capital and they say, ours now, tough shit, eat shit. And then, oh, well, fuck me, I guess. So that, even when it comes to evil, greedy, horrible capitalist entities, they tend to prefer investment in areas that are a bit more stable than places that are super destabilized. The legal security is so bad in South America, like the case of Argentina. Okay. How do you know what the correct dose of Vyvanse is? Doc wants me to go up, but I don't want to have super high tolerance. The dose and all that doesn't matter for your tolerance at all. You keep going up until you have side effects, I guess, right? How do you think the rhetoric and U.S. policy around Georgia might change with a Trump presidency? There's literally no way to predict this. I don't know how I could ever predict this. Trump doesn't know where Georgia is on a map. It really depends on who talks to him last about it. I have no idea. It's hard to say. Jesus. Oh. Wait, am I about to say the most retarded thing I've ever said in my life? These are just fireworks, right? These aren't people like fighting, right? Is China a stable country in terms of labor? That would be my guess. Would be yeah, for sure. China is incredibly stable, no? Fireworks against a police water cannon. I would say to be careful. Fuck, man. I'm treading on thin ice. No, that's not the right expression. I'm on shaky ground. Can you tread on shaky ground? Probably not. can you, wait, how do you tread on, you can't tread on, you're skating on thin ice. Okay. Because you can't tread on ice either. Somebody issues the HTS. So I think the HTS is what most of the Syrian rebels are fighting under now, is this group. HTS Emir Jolani issues a communication, I guess, reminding fighters under his command to conduct themselves Islamically while capturing enemy territory, and gives assurances to minorities, the already minuscule Druze and Christian population. He said quite the makeover. I'm always cautious when you hear stuff like this. Like, it could be really good, or it could be a dog whistle, or it could be really bad, or it could be something messaged in English that doesn't mean the same in, or that doesn't mean the same in Arabic, or, yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know. Hopefully this is true. I've heard that this guy is supposedly moderated quite a bit. I think that was in the article we read yesterday. I have no clue, or, yeah. Am I crazy, or does this dude look like an Arab Zelensky? To bring you back to the countries in the Middle East don't want liberal democracy's point, these societies are not revolting to attain liberal democracies. They revolt, usually because of their material conditions worsening. It's also easier for them to succeed in deposing the current leaders because they're usually authoritarian and adopt a single-party political system. Maybe. I don't even know why I'm saying this, because it's so stupid. But just to be clear, if somebody's listening, I don't think that white people are built for democracy, and like brown people are, like, don't like democracy because they can't handle it and they need like kings and queens. These people are not the same. Or maybe if he lost a lot of weight, like, the war is rough on him. Yeah, right now white people are struggling with democracy the most. So, how could daily dose not affect tolerance? Regularly dosing higher and higher doses raises tolerance. Someone who's at 30 milligrams a day and is up to 60 milligrams is going to soon enough have that higher tolerance. When I think of tolerance medically, I mean, I could be wrong. Obviously, I'm not a doctor, but when I think of tolerance, I think of you've grown so accustomed to a particular medication, you don't have like the therapeutic benefit anymore. I've never heard that like you need 40 milligrams of Vyvanse, but that'll lead to higher tolerance, so you should just take 20 or 30 instead. I've never heard that before. Like, whatever tolerance you're going to build, you're going to build. There's no point in like taking less to build less, because then you're just taking less. Like, I need 60, but I know I'll build a tolerance to it, so instead I just take 30, so I don't build a tolerance to 60, but I'm never going to take 60. So what the fuck is the point? Right? Yeah, I don't know. Wait, he looks like Shia LaBeouf. Okay. But his body is a temple, bro. True. Pro-Turkish rebels burned Russian flag. I don't know enough of the history between like World War I and II and Cold War stuff for Turkey. All I know is that Turkey hates Russia. I don't know why. I don't have the history. I don't know what the thing is, but I just know that Turkish people, or at least the country of Turkey, fucking hates. They hate Russia. They hate them. They hate them. It's because everybody hates Russia? Yeah, that actually might be true too. Does anybody like Russia? Actually, that's like not like in the like. Does any non-government state like Russia? Or like any non-government entity like Russia? India. Lex does. Oh, Serbia might, maybe. The saying that I've always heard, I hate overqualifying everything. It's so boring. The saying that I've always heard given was that, what was it? Like, if you need help, the United States will show up, or the United States will show up if you need help. The Soviet Union will show up whether you need help or not. There's there's something like that. Yeah, I don't know if anybody really likes Russia that much. Does Destiny play the flute? Only Hispanic Nazi ones. Good one. Got him. Russia has always wanted Turkish land to own the Black Sea. Don't they, they already have Crimea. What do you mean? Or, well, I don't know if they still fight over this, but the, in order to leave the Black Sea, you have to go through Turkey, right? I think it's through Istanbul. I think they used to fight over like whether or not Turkey's like, oh, we're not going to let any of your ships through or not. But I think generally Turkey does, right? Like they have to, otherwise they would start bombing each other or something, right? Yeah. But I think this is an area that is in contention fairly often. Russia's always wanted Istanbul. Yeah, but that's never happening, right? That would just be wild. How do you like? That would just be crazy. No. Actually, I'm not going to make any military predictions because who the fuck knows? I don't know enough about military strategy or whatever. I could talk a little bit about diplomatic stuff maybe, but not military. No way. No, they don't let them through. They can't get any. I guess. Well, when was the last time they need to try to get ships through? I'm not actually sure. Also, is Sevastopol, is this considered a warm water port? In winter, does this port freeze over, or is it is it sailable, navigable? That sounds like a bad word. Yes, okay. I think warm water ports are really valuable for Russia because a lot of Russia's ports are frozen over in the winter and you can't like go anywhere. You can't like move like ships out reasonably. So Sevastopol is the Russian military base in Crimea, which is like really important. And then down here in Syria, one of the reasons why, that's not Syria. One of the reasons why I think Russia enjoys Syria is because this is another port they use a lot. I think it's Tartus. Is also, obviously, it's a warm water port. I think Russia might have one more, like, way the fuck over here, maybe? I don't know if they use it that often or whatever, but Vladivostok? I don't know. Is St. Petersburg not warm water? Wait, does that connect to... Oh, up here? I guess not. I don't know. It is a warm water port. The defining factor would be its availability for use in the winter. If it's blocked by ice, it would be cold water. Oh, so okay, so then it is. Okay. I don't know why I've never heard this brought up before. Maybe sailing through, like, you're basically going through, like, NATO fuckland here, right? Well, especially now, because it just means if it freezes now. Yeah, a warm water port doesn't freeze in the winter. Finland is in NATO now, right? Yeah. Damn, what a fuck up. Wait, the Baltic Sea does freeze. That Redditor was wrong. Russia built a fleet of nuclear icebreakers to exploit oil up north. I know that you can break ice, obviously. I've seen YouTube videos on it.
An ice-breaking ship.
But my guess is going to be, like, one, now you have to add these whole new ships to your fleet. Number one. And number two, it probably hurts your maneuverability if you were to get into some sort of battle at sea or something, like now you like, it's just, my guess is even if it's physically possible to move ships from A to B, you probably wouldn't want to travel this way with like a military fleet, would be my guess. I don't know fuck all. I do not know fuck all about military strategy or combat. I can't say anything at all about it, so I wouldn't be able to tell you. That'd be my guess though. I didn't know that planes, for instance, I didn't know that planes drop torpedoes. I didn't know that was like a really common way until I looked more into that USS Liberty incident. That like an airplane flying in a direction, if there's like a ship here, then the goal is to drop a torpedo. And then when the torpedo drops into the water, it continues on to the ship and then blows. I didn't know that was, I had no idea that was a thing. I didn't even, yeah. Now these days, the guidance systems and everything are probably more sophisticated, so that doesn't happen. But like back in the day, apparently they did this a lot. Why can't they just break the ice? What's the big deal? Well, ice. It's a big guy. Can fuck your shit up.
Is there anyone there?
Yes, what you see?
Iceberg, right ahead!
Thank you.
Wasn't the SS Liberty an air-launched Exocet missile? I think they shot it with some torpedoes too. It was the USS Liberty, right? They shot that bad boy with all sorts of things because they were trying to insert Jewish conspiracy here.
Iceberg, right ahead! Under starboard! Starboard! No! No! Stop me!
Why didn't the Titanic just break before hitting the iceberg? Are they retarded? Because it's happening in the middle of the night. And I think when you break on ships like these, it causes a huge squeal. Like, have you ever heard a truck engine brake? Ship's engine braking is like 20 times worse. And if you wake up all the passengers, people are going to be mad as fuck.
Hey! Pull it down! Hard over! Hold that over, sir! Hold it!
Look at him go, dude. True story. Okay. Is it significantly more expensive to transport cargo in a plane than in a ship? Aren't ships outdated nowadays? My understanding, it is significantly cheaper to transport something on a ship than in a plane. Why do people say never forget the USS Liberty under Sam Hyde videos? In the 67 war, the Six-Day War, as it's commonly called, there was a U.S. surveillance boat called the USS Liberty that was close-ish to, I think it was northeast maybe of the Suez Canal, which is near Israel. I think it was in this area around here, I think. And in the Six-Day War, as part of their bombing campaigns, Israeli planes at some point started to attack this ship, which was a U.S. ship, which they shouldn't have been doing, obviously, because even if we weren't allies, we weren't adversarial to each other at the time. Israel says that it was a mistake in communication. The U.S. says it was a miscommunication, and there are a lot of people. I don't want to say just Nazis, but like very far right, kind of wacky people who think that actually Israel intentionally attacked the USS Liberty to try to, I've heard all sorts of different theories. I think the most common one is the USS Liberty was going to somehow observe Israel committing war crimes in the Sinai. And so Israel came out to bomb that ship in order so that the United States couldn't like witness the war crimes that were being committed by Israel, I guess. Yeah. But I think there's like a lot of, I think that if you have even like a 2-second glance at kind of what's the situation is, that's pretty unbelievable. Didn't you debate a guy on this? I don't know. Nobody knows anything about any of this, but it doesn't really make sense because like the ships, like the planes that came out to bomb the USS Liberty, they weren't even equipped well to sink the ship. That's why the USS Liberty survived the incident. And then they stopped attacking the ship like halfway through. Why would you let anybody survive? Why would you let, like, it's too hard to explain, like, how the fuck did this ship survive if if that was the goal? I don't know, that's dumb. But, you know, it's just a common, generally, I will stereotype here. If you're arguing with somebody about anything related to Israel and they bring up, or Jews in general, and they bring up the USS Liberty, there is a 95% chance that this person is like a super anti-Semitic, like dog whistling Nazi shit. Almost every time. It's like 95% chance. Anytime USS Liberty comes up, it's almost always those types of people. Wait, the fucking ship survived? I always thought it was sunk. No, it made it back. I think there were like 30 or 40 people on it, I think, that died. 34 crew members died. 171 were wounded. Oh, wait, hold on. Did the ship make it back, or did they just rescue everybody off the ship? Or the people that were alive afterwards? I don't remember if they made it back. They might have scuttled the ship. I don't remember if it was like... When arguing with American isolationists, you should draw parallels between their loyalty to Trump because he'll make America great again and the loyalty we will get from other countries. Well, but they think other countries will be super loyal to us, right? Why are we scared to call them what they are? I don't personally like using the term Nazi because it's like it encompasses a whole bunch of different beliefs that I don't think modern, like, neo-Nazi might be a little bit better, or just like far right. I don't know, alt-right, nobody uses it. I don't know. There's like a lot of weird anti-Semitic shit that permeates a lot of different ideologies now that aren't even necessarily Nazis. Like at this point, I'm pretty convinced that like Hassan and his ilk are like pretty anti-Semitic, and they also repeat a lot of like Nazi conspiracy theories. But are they Nazis? I don't know. Probably. I don't think I'd say that. The ship was sold for scrap in 1973. Okay.
Neither the United States nor Europe even have conventional ones, but Russia is already putting into operation combat icebreakers. The world's only combat...
I have a clip of Hassan talking about the USS Liberty. Ooh, give it to me. I don't mind. Listen, I'm not banning Hassan clips. We can have Hassan clips. I just don't want 12 Hassan clips on my subreddit every day now, okay? Where it's a new month. We're entering a new era of not posting.
That icebreaker of the Russian Navy, Ivan Papanin, was first demonstrated from the inside. Its arrangement is striking in its high-tech nature. Meanwhile, the United States, which is fighting for influence in the Arctic, cannot boast of such...
Isn't Hassan and his community more anti-Israel than anti-Semitic? Do you think they hate Jews for being Jewish, like practicing Judaism? If they are anti-Israel and not anti-Semitic, the lines have blurred so much that the distinction is meaningless. I would say that there are too many things that you can say. Like anytime you're saying like go back to Europe or go back to Brooklyn, that's an anti-Semitic statement. That's not anti-Zionist. That's a statement that's meant to show that the Jewish people that are there now don't belong there, and they all came from Europe, or they all come from Brooklyn, or whatever. So yeah, that's like there's too many statements like that they say they're anti-Zionist, but they're not. Like
a ship. What is unique about the combat icebreaker Ivan Papanin?
Our movie's coming back soon. I think I have 3 conductors officially picked. I think Cake is working on the. So conductors can embed. They might be able to now. I didn't check my shit this morning. I woke up late. And then I think we're scheduling them. It might be Saturday, Sunday, 2 movies a day, I think. But I don't know. We'll see. I don't know if we have the official schedule worked out. But sorry if you already answered or noticed, but did you see the new LSF rules allowing politics and Destiny versus on content? I saw that they changed, but... I hate that I even talk about these things because it's so, it's so unbalanced because nobody else ever has these conversations. But like if somebody was dominating the subreddit, they wouldn't care. They would celebrate it. But if my people are dominating the subreddit, I like to think in terms of like, what's the health of this subreddit and how does it look? Obviously, nobody else gives a fuck. The issue right now is that OTK, which is really the only other competitive force like on Reddit. I don't think OTK fans have much of a Reddit presence anymore, or at least it doesn't feel that way. And then if OTK fans don't have much of a presence, Juicers are there, and then Asmongold's fans are there. Obviously, mine probably have the strongest presence on Reddit, and then Hassan's fans just like live here, and then an H3 anti-fan subreddit's and kind of in his a little bit. Allowing content between me and Hassan basically means that, like, there's a possibility that me and Hassan just, like, overwhelmingly dominate the subreddit, which I think is not good, right? That sucks. Every clip is wow OTK clip on LSFD. Yeah, I think because they're doing a special event right now, something, but yeah. Playing WoW hardcore to save the lonely white males voting Trump because WoW is audience captured by Asmongold and other far-right streamers. Oh, Destiny. Oh, good one. Hassan fans dominate that YouTube drama subreddit. Kind of. Those people are fans of Hassan. They're not Hassan fans, though. Those are just more kind of like wokey progressive types. Do you think that you could hate Israeli Jews and Zionism in such a way that it becomes anti-Semitic, but that being called anti-Semitic as a whole, i.e. hating all Jews around the world, would be incorrect? So like anti-Semitic in a specific way, or would that just be standard anti-Semitism to you? I mean, like if you wanted to call it that, you could, but the issue is nobody else would use these standards for any other type of bigotry. Like, because these were really standard, actually Fuentes and AF talking points. And neo-Nazi talking points in general from like 2016 to 2020, it was, I don't hate black people. Richard Spencer, I think, used to say this stuff. I don't hate black people, okay? I love black people, and I love different cultures all over the world. That's why I think that black people should just go back to Africa, right? People would say shit like this. But when you say that, like, obviously people are gonna say, okay, well, that's kind of racist. What do you mean by, first of all, what do you mean by go back to, right? This is a person who has like 4 generations or more of family or 10 generations of family in the United States. So that's kind of weird when you say go back to, number one. And number two, yeah, everybody's gonna call that person racist. Nobody would ever say, hold on, whoa, I'm not being racist. I don't hate these people. I just wish they would go back, or and their families would go back to Africa. So we could have Africans in Africa, Americans in America, and whatever. And it's like, okay. So when people are like, oh yeah, I'm not anti-Semitic just because I want all the Jews to leave this place and go back to Brooklyn, right? I just like, there's a world where I could agree with what you're saying, but these very same people don't carve out that much leeway for anybody making similar claims against other people. So yeah. Do you think that Barron Trump is going to be the one to take Donnie down, or has he been consumed by the unwoke mind virus? Isn't Barron Trump like fucking 6'9"? This guy is huge. Holy shit, I just made that number up. I thought he was like 6'3" or 6'4". God damn, what the fuck? What's the point of scheduled movies when the point is to watch out of spite when you are gone? True. The, because offline chat is nice and movies destroy offline chat, but people also like movies, so having a schedule for it is nice. Why are people obsessed with Barron Trump? Because children are the way to attack the father. That's why people go after Nathan or Barron or Elon's children. The future of this country is dependent upon what part of the internet Barron is on. Sorry for asking again. Anything on the DGG radio, is it allowed? I don't know. I don't even know what that sentence grammatically means. Sorry for asking again. Anything on the DGG radio, is it allowed? What is DGG radio? It's just a retard who streams himself playing music. Oh, okay. Hassan comparing Houthis shipjacking to the Warsaw Ghetto uprising is legit shocking stuff. It's not even, Hassan doesn't even get credit for that anti-Semitic comparison, though. That one goes to Finkeldick. Finkelstein is obsessed. He's obsessed with the Nate Turner rebellion and the Warsaw Ghetto uprising. Finkelstein constantly references these things and compares them to whatever is convenient to him, which is insanely unhinged and stupid, but...
CO2 is not pollution. Well, if it is too much of it, well, then it's growing more trees.
Okay, based.